Open School of Business. Before we start, I'd like to ask you to go into iTunes and review, rate, and subscribe because it really helps to get these episodes out there for other people to find, for other hungry wannabe entrepreneurs to learn more about business and how to start living a very fulfilling life. Today we have a guest, um, Kareemah. I am very, I'm a, I'm a very excited and very happy today to introduce her. We met after a couple of years ago, and at the time, we both were doing very different things in our lives. And so it happened to be we were at a project management conference in Silver Spring, and Kareemah was at she was representing a recruitment company. And today she is a business owner of the wellness company, and she's going to tell us all about it. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us about her business and how it all started.
Thank you, Anar. I'm very, very happy to be here. My name is Kareemah Woodard, and I am the owner and the chief wellness officer of the WellFit Pro. The WellFit Pro was started in response to me really looking to create my lifestyle and align it with my career and work. We specialize in group and individual fitness programs, but what makes us different is we really focus on delivering programs that make music the integral piece of the fitness format. I'm a music lover. Music is a very important part of who I am. I love it. I learned to play a couple of instruments in my lifetime, and currently I am a drummer. So it's just a huge part of who I am, but also think that it plays a pivotal part in increasing and maximizing the benefit of exercise. With the WellFit Pro, I also focus on helping people with their nutrition to fuel properly and most optimally for these workouts and just life in general. So we focus on helping individuals learn more about plant-rich eating, plant-based foods, and how to make food vibrant. So not only does it look beautiful and taste great, but it serves a purpose in preparing you for your workouts and also promoting cellular health.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm glad you told me about the music. That is
Yeah.
like the most unique thing about your fitness, and that you play instruments. And, I could have never thought about these things because when we met at the conference, we were talking corporate. You were wearing a very formal suit,
Yeah.
and everything was very formal about you. And same here. But now we have such a wider topics of conversations like music, composing, and eating healthy is also a big part of my life. And it's just such a big shift to actually, present your whole self to the world as opposed to being in corporate and just showing just little piece of the puzzle. That's what I really love about entrepreneurship, because you can bring everything to work, the whole you, right?
Yeah, it's expression. And I've done so many what are they, I guess, personality tests and tests that you take when you're
Yeah.
working in corporate. They want to know who are you. So they give you these tests. And when I would do these tests, I would always score high on being in a role that involves some creativity or expression. And so I would definitely say, as an entrepreneur, I am truly doing that now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And nevertheless, I see that you're enjoying it. You're 2 years into it now. And my question would be, how hard was it in the beginning? And what did you do to overcome those things? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people listening right now and thinking, oh, I love dancing too. I am absolutely nuts about healthy eating. Or it could be, I am very, you know, um, eloquent with my writing. Like I'm a creative writer, but I'm doing this writing for a corporate PR company or something like that. And they want to know how they can transition and what are the first steps, basically. And always it sounds very scary. So you should tell us, how was that process?
Well, first off, I will say transition is an evolutionary thing versus a linear process. We're all literally preparing for our next role or our next job or our next project. We all don't realize it, but we are. The things we're doing today prepares us for what's next, or we're connected to someone that's going to help us further crystallize an idea, or we have someone in our family that just in a random conversation says, oh, you should talk to such and such, and you get connected. So we're all like really transitioning, but it's not necessarily a top of mind realization. So for me, making the transition was not so difficult or so foreign, because I think because we're all universally drawn to our purpose at some point in our life. Some people are more in their purpose now, and some people aren't there yet. But eventually, I think as humanity, we all will eventually get to our purpose. And for me, I was living in my purpose peripherally. And when I got the chance, no, I will rephrase it. When I gave myself the chance to become an entrepreneur, I mean, that's when it happened. We say things happen to us, job loss, getting a college degree, getting a new experience. Those are things that often create a career transition, or a person, or spawns a person to start a business. But really, it's when we give ourselves the chance to do it. So I'll kind of rephrase it. I gave myself the chance to start this business 2 years ago, when I had the faith and risk tolerance and belief that I could do it. And because I was already doing it while I worked as a recruiter, I was teaching group fitness, kind of in a part-time space. And prior to that, I had gotten my Zumba certification maybe about 4 years prior to really teaching group fitness and starting recruiting kind of at the same time. So, the vision, the seed is planted in us, but it's when we get the hydration and when we get the nourishment for that seed to grow, and really the growth is through ideas. That's when we get the, what I call courage to take the next step. So that's really what it was for me. I got the opportunity when I lost my recruiting role, as kind of oxymoronic as that might sound. Losing a position allowed me to gain myself, and this opportunity for business mixed with self-expression. It was, and it is, I'm not going to lie, it is a challenge daily. Some days are less predictable and more challenging than others, but it's who I am. So it's it's a labor of love. It's a labor of self-love to be able to express myself through this. So we find ways to manage it.
Yeah, I just love how you were saying that it was there always, and then you just turned into business. And I love using that expression, turning your passion into business. That's exactly what you did. And that job loss was more like a sign that it's not necessary. That job was not as
Yeah,
necessary as what you were doing all along, anyways. But having that courage and risk tolerance is absolutely necessary. So that's what gave you the strength to actually go and execute.
yeah,
When you did that, it's great that you already had the platform, you already had some students, and you got your Zumba certification right on time. So it kind of all worked out together. What was the hardest part? Like you were saying you already were in recruiting, you learned a lot of sales techniques during the job. Um, so like sales might not have necessarily be challenging, but just curious, what processes were difficult for you as a business owner?
um I would say the most difficult part is viewing yourself when you're an entrepreneur, particularly as a solopreneur, um viewing yourself as an artificial person, which is the corporation, in terms of legal speak. And for me, although I spent years of having an accounting background and auditing financial statements and looking at people's records and things like that, ironically, the challenge was seeing myself as, oh, you have your books, you have your administrative tasks to do. And because I felt like, oh, okay, well, I have an accounting background, I can do all this stuff myself. Um, More recently, I've started to delegate things and use systems to help me track and stay organized. So I would say that's been the most challenging piece of being an entrepreneur, and particularly as a solopreneur, is especially when you're in such a business that's so close to your passion, is there are points where you have to delineate yourself and separate yourself from the business and recognize that part of the business as as an entity, not just not a hobby or not something that's fun to do when you feel like it, but the same way your boss would be expecting, let's say, the general ledger to be balanced at the end of the month, you have to have that same mentality for yourself. Like, this needs to be balanced at the end of the month, or whenever you do your book. So that was, and I think that is probably the most challenging piece. But the business development, the execution, the strategy and the ideation, I mean, that stuff, I'm always thinking, I'm always doing, I'm always living and breathing in that space. So that,
Yeah.
unfortunately, is less difficult.
That's good. No, I mean, this is amazing, and I think that's why you actually transition into that expressive role rather than going into some kind of business that would involve accounting. For example, one of our previous guests, Yildiz Osmanov, he opened a company that does accounting for other people. He loves accounting that much. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the different passion.
Yeah.
And yours was that you have the skills, but it's not necessarily your favorite thing to do. That's why you want to delegate it. And totally get that, because I think that's why you're an entrepreneur, to actually do things that can, um, where you're most passionate and where you're most skilled.
Yeah.
So other things you could delegate to make sure they run really smoothly.
Yeah. and
And
and and
it's
I'll also, oh, sorry to interrupt. I also say, I think entrepreneurship, for the most part, can and should be about your passion. But I'll, now that I've been doing this now for a couple of years, and I don't know if other people that are seasoned in this thing for decades feel the same way, but I also feel like entrepreneurship is about your highest levels of expression, you know um and sometimes it's being, as you mentioned, highly skilled at something, but it may not be in terms of like an internal passion, or sometimes it might be related very closely to a person's values, you know. So um oddly enough, when I was a volunteer for junior achievement, I presented this chart to these sixth graders. It was about choosing career, and the three things that you need to have or should consider are skills, values, and interest. And when I was delivering that presentation to the sixth graders, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Somebody should have told me this is sixth grade. But obviously not. It dawned on me like, yeah, you have to have a balance of those three. And I truly believe if you live long enough, you're going to shift emphasis on the three areas. For me, a person at the time, a person in my 20s, I was focusing on skills. You know, I had a decent interest in accounting, and from a value perspective, I said, okay, yeah, this is a respectable job, you know. But at that time of being a person in my 20s, I wanted marketable, high level skill set. And then as I got older, the shift happened on aligning more with values and interest. Um, and that might change. I'm 45 now. In 10 years, I may slide the scale back toward values more, or skills more. So I think it's maintaining that balance. And I think a happy entrepreneur, meaning a person who's aligned with themselves, is confident in whatever three areas they're in. So if they're in the passion slash interest bucket in their entrepreneurship phase right now, that's awesome. But if they want to move into a skills focus of entrepreneurship, that's great too. As long as, you know, as long as the entrepreneur is comfortable and confident, and they've made that decision as to that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I love that because I think a lot of people have the idea that they have to become one thing and they have to be stuck in that career for the whole life. And
Right.
you really don't have to. And you can justify it with different like skills, values, and interest is a great opportunity to actually to back up whatever it is that you're doing, because
Yeah.
a lot of times people do yearn things that are not easy to attain. Like I'm sure in your 20s it could have been even easier to get into fitness business, but you wanted something different that was more difficult to achieve. And I see that a lot in high achievers, that they like doing a more challenging thing for themselves. And
Yeah.
that's part of the thrill, I
Look,
guess.
glutton for punishment sometimes, or just, you like a challenge. I like a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily looking to make things hard, but I'm looking to um express myself at the highest level for myself. And I think sometimes we do that in the face of challenge.
Yeah, it's very important. And the second point that I wanted to highlight, you were saying how you want to see yourself apart from the business and be your own boss. And it takes so much self-discipline. Like I'm really glad you give that advice to our audience, because you really need to have that. You have to have a schedule, you have to have um accountability so you can
Exactly.
deliver and your business won't suffer, because if you're the only one deciding everything is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, you
And
really need the discipline.
yeah,
That's the word. And a very famous I don't want to even call him motivational speaker, because I think he's more than motivation, but he mentioned, and others have mentioned, just through other readings, like, Napoleon Hill, um, you really have to take discipline as your key to freedom. And I never really understood that until now, that the things that you give up, I mean, the phrase give up, you can look at it in different ways. The things that you put no or low priority on and shift the focus on the things that you believe will give you the highest return, it requires a shift of resources. And so when you make that shift, you then become more free. Your time becomes more free. You gain a peace of mind. Hopefully you increase your revenue
Yeah,
through this additional freedom, financial freedom, personal freedom, all of those things. So those shifts, those shift in resources to achieve the freedom that you seek as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's great. Like where your attention is, where your focus is, that's where you get the things done. And I
Yep.
love that you mentioned that because I'm a big believer of less is more. So if you're focused on one area, it's really got to be the most important, like the Pareto rule of 80
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
So that was an ally to the next question. What is your 80-20 in your business? What's the bulk of your profits coming from?
Um, right now I'm doing more fitness, group fitness, um, and specifically coaching. Personal coaching has become a big part of what I'm doing now. I think a lot of that, from a fortunate standpoint, has come from the recent pandemic. Before, I was doing more corporate wellness, going to companies, teaching in person, even schools, doing my own group fitness too. But the bulk of that was more so the corporate work, which is great. But when the pandemic came, the shift happened. People weren't going to offices. Um, some people weren't working in a traditional setting. We had our lockdowns, or, well, in the DMV area, it was less of a lockdown and more of, a shutdown. But a lot of that spawned people to look at themselves and say, I have some extra resource, meaning time. I'm not commuting. I'm teleworking now. Let me take advantage of getting some fitness in that they may have been a little more difficult when I was driving, and having a 45-minute commute. Also, too, stress relief was a big driver of the personal coaching for me this past year and a half. A lot of my clients and students were home working and having to play teacher, having to play school, having to wear all these hats. And that was also something that revealed their need for personal fitness and wellness, and the ability to be able to do it in a seamless way, that created the least amount of disruption to their schedule and to their families. So personal coaching has definitely been a growth area for me, both from the fitness and nutrition side, helping to identify smarter eating. And, not just for the things that we often think of healthy eating for, a big one is weight loss, which is, it can really yield benefits for individuals that use weight reduction as a way to prevent certain chronic diseases like diabetes, like high blood pressure, but also nutrition from the standpoint of I can't talk today, from a preventive medicine standpoint. Cellular health is really important because it keeps us strong, and it keeps us able to fight off certain diseases and many diseases. So it was a pleasure and honor to really walk people uh, through that journey and still walk people through that journey. Um, just in light of COVID-19 and other diseases and illnesses that people have been dealing with more recently, helping people identify nutrition as a true uh, you know a true way to combat those things has really been a pleasure.
Yeah. And that's why I was so excited for this interview, because I think your work now has become so much more impactful, literally changing people's lives through changing their health to
Yeah.
a more positive way. So, I mean, you're literally saving lives if
Yeah, I
anything like,
mean,
and the stress
yeah.
relief is a very big one as well. It's
Yeah.
just amazing that I think this is the future, and there's a lot of room in this market for uh, people who want to focus on fitness, wellness, and with their different edge. Like you have the musical edge, you're giving preventive diet kind of advice, like nutrition wise, right?
Yeah.
So there are others who are doing psychology and chiropractors, for example. So there's just a whole array of new um, wellness functions that people could go into, and not necessarily having some kind of skill. You don't have to be a doctor to learn about nutrition, get your certification and work. So there's just a lot of exciting opportunities out there. And especially with the pandemic, we all learned to work online, and the customers get online with less friction now. And it's just amazing growth for a lot of interesting businesses. And I'm
Yes.
just glad that yours is thriving and growing.
Yeah.
Um, so, I always like to ask about future plans from the guests, and that could be an invitation for you to promote whatever is your next exciting project.
Yeah. Well, future plans, definitely we're going to continue with growing the online practice of what we do. Our personal coaching right now includes bar fitness, a hit workout called Strong Nation. And that's actually a really cool workout that was created by the Zumba company. So it's not dance fitness, but it is a interval style workout in which you're doing classic moves um, and cardio moves like burpees, planks, jumping jacks, but you're doing it set to the music. So it's so motivational. It's so fun. It's challenging, but it's one of those workouts where you just keep coming back for more. So we're looking to continue to grow coaching as well as classes for that format. Um, Growing the nutrition side of things, getting more into group wellness programs, delivering more workshops for the community is definitely an area that I foresee growth in the next 12 months. Because again, some communities have been impacted much harder than others as it relates to COVID-19, and then just you know the consequential effects, whether they've been financial, economic, social, um, and healthcare focused. There's so many communities that have been negatively impacted um, by COVID-19. So we're definitely looking to do more work in communities to get these really vulnerable populations exposed to fitness and wellness.
Wow, it's a lot of stuff, and I'm really um, amazed by how much thought is put into it, especially with the community development because you're right, this pandemic has been very difficult and straining for a lot of reasons. And the biggest one is that we're isolated and uh, less motivated to move.
Yeah.
And, depending on where you live, it could be worse or a little better. But in general, I see this kind of a fatigue in a lot of communities. And I think
Yeah.
your work would be instrumental in getting all these things in order, like, so to speak, and communities build up together and doing things like group exercising together and just really coming together for events even.
Yeah,
So
you
that'd
know,
be good.
it's work, and thinking about, how do I deliver this and how do I get there? So, I'm working with a local community group, and it's a cross disciplines. It's, fund, they got some government funding, some nonprofit funding, but they're one group that is making some impacts in the county. I live in Prince George's County, so that's one group that I've gotten involved in, and I see that group is one, just one way to get fitness and wellness to the community on a larger scale. And lastly, I'll say another growth area for the WellFit Pro is really focusing on getting entrepreneurs fit and healthy and well. You know, Even beyond eating and exercise, one of the just things that happens as an entrepreneur is a 12-hour day or even a 16-hour day. And for some entrepreneurs, it happens over a course of weeks and months. And so looking to grow the program to really, really help entrepreneurs make sure that they're eating well, they're exercising, they're getting enough sleep, they're recovering properly. They've got some sound stress management techniques and things to go to. That's an area that the WellFit Pro is really passionate about, because we don't want people to we don't want entrepreneurs to give up on their dreams because they're too tired, or they are, even maybe facing some emotional disturbances,
Yeah.
or feeling just discouraged and anxious. We don't want that to happen. And so that's an area that I'm personally passionate about, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to feel like, man, I'm in this thing alone, or I am tired. I can't move one more thing on my body. So keeping entrepreneurs encouraged to stay fit is another thing that we're going to focus on this year and the
Oh,
upcoming year.
awesome. I like that idea
Yeah.
because, sometimes you need the sounding board and like really have some connection with other entrepreneurs, not to feel alone.
Yeah.
And I think if you throw in a little fitness in there, it will be even more fun. So maybe we
Yes.
can work on some events together like that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that could be
We have
fun.
to stay energized, and we can't we can't lose focus of being healthy. I mean, health is the truest form of wealth. So if you don't have your health, um, the other types of wealth is short lived. So it's
Right.
important for us to be as healthy as possible as we
Yeah.
grow our businesses and communities and create our enterprises.
Yes. And I love your story for that fact that it gives so much hope to anyone with a challenge right now and with doubts and anxiety, because there is a success story. If you look around and if there's some doors that are shut down, there is another door that will be open for you and you
Yes.
can try and you will succeed. So on that positive note, I'd like to thank you again for your time
Thank you.
and good luck in every and each of your program.
Thank you so much, Anar. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And please feel free to reach out to me afterwards for any questions. And if you want to check out my website, it is at thewellfitpro.com. wellfit.com. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram under that handle as well, the WellFit Pro.